Before I introduce Jake, our next speaker, part of this presentation, the first part of this presentation, is going to be a sequel to our first Save Blind Bay video, brought to you by Save the River, the Thousand Arm Land Trust, but mostly Emma French. There's a sequel, and it's magnificent, and this is its debut. And then afterwards, we'll bring up Jake to get the rest of the update.
Work.
So you can look at me, talk to me like last time.
Thank you.
And it has evolved, right? Like, I mean, obviously, you're going to hear more of this.
Some organizations along the St. Lawrence River are up in arms over a new proposed U.S. Customs and Border Patrol station near Fisher's Landing.
Not everywhere has that, unique combination of like physics and chemistry and biology that places like Blind Bay do.
This area is one of the best examples I know of still of a original wet meadow where the willows, the hardwood trees come right down to the water. And that is critical in nesting and spawning habitat for the muskie, for the fish, for the reptiles, the turtles. I mean, you can see everything in here.
Most of us have seen their drawing of the building they want.
That whole waterfront of town of Clayton is all marine residential. If anybody wants to take a deep dive in our town comprehensive plan, which is what everything's based on, that is like going totally against it because it talks about preservation. Gosh, why do we have zoning, etc.?
Ever since, we found out that Blind Bay is the CBP's first choice for their facility, we've been fighting it all the way. In the interim, we had cleanups here. We had a wonderful fundraiser.
Save the River and Tilt partnered with TI Park, TIA, 2 water keepers, and several other river-based organizations to strongly advocate against CBP's plan to build their new facility in Blind Bay.
We don't know what CBP really wants, except the water access.
This whole thing seems to revolve around this need for a 40-foot dock that's adjacent to the property. But there's other places that can do that, but again, is it that necessary?
I live on Blind Bay. When you're kayaking back there, it gradually goes up to inches of water, and right in that corner there's a big tree that overhangs, and under that tree is where almost every single night there's a heron hanging out fishing. When looking at the plans, they wanted to put their dock exactly where the heron sits.
And we proposed other sites as well.
That was one of their requests. If you don't want us to build here, then give us alternatives.
Bonnie Castle was proposed by the community. Cape Vincent stepped forward.
Dockside cottages.
Clover, whatever you want to call it.
Another place besides the Blind Bay, Keewaydin, Dockside, Cloverleaf. Right at their own facility at the border.
Anybody who's driven at night over the Thousand Islands Bridge and approached the new border crossing facility, it's like, oh my God, is it even possible that something like that could be literally, if I turn my shoulder right there.
And so this would be another, what's called a cumulative impact of more light pollution on the river.
A closer analysis of Border Patrol facilities and stations sited throughout the Great Lakes region clearly shows that these facilities are being sited off and away from the immediate waterfront. And so for the primary stakeholders who've been involved in this have not seen CBP come forward with any sort of case studies, statistics, or justifications on why a 48,000 square foot industrial scale facility needs to be built on the shores of the St. Lawrence River. There's just simply no data that supports that claim.
They're saying they need river access. They have it.
They have it at the port of entry, they have it at Wellesley Island, they have it at Keewaydin.
Or they have a point here, and they want to build right next to those, when in reality they should be building on the other side of Route 12.
Why are they looking in these other places and why not looking at the Route 12, 81 interchange? But that is the best location if they simply will not upgrade what they have already.
We were very excited that they announced that there would be a public meeting. We didn't feel like any of us were being heard, not the land trust, not Save the River, not the public. Just to find out that they took that away and that it was just going to be a public meeting.
Environmental groups are unhappy about an upcoming meeting about Blind Bay. One local official is calling a change in format a bait and switch by Border Patrol.
It came back that they wanted to have just an open house.
It's just an informational meeting. Well, what's that?
Where they would have different stations, different storyboards.
It's a dog and pony show. It means nothing.
Obviously, we disagreed.
A public hearing means something in NEPA. It means it's a formal hearing. People get to testify. Comments are taken down, and CBP would have to respond to those comments.
With the help of Senator Schumer, we ended up with the 2 days of public hearings.
There was a long process. It took about 30 days to move the needle on this issue.
They have had nothing with as far as community involvement until we squeezed them.
By now, folks know that there will be some sort of public meeting regarding Customs and Border Protection's planned Blind Bay facility. What that meeting exactly will be is murky.
I was much more optimistic, believe it or not, before the meeting. And then when they sent people who knew nothing about the issues.
The entire process, I thought, was, I'll call it that. I shouldn't call it a joke.
There were mostly consultants that they've hired to do their dog and pony show. They had nice little color, 8x10 glossies and all that kind of stuff.
Those companies had been contracted by Customs and Border Patrol to carry out environmental studies, help navigate the NEPA process.
I talked to the biologist people and asked what information they had on Blind Bay. He said, we've done no real surveys. Everything they have stops at the water line, and they have had 2 biologists walk the field for 2 days and turn rocks over and look at the sky. That's word for word what I was told. So I walked over to the NEPA people and I said, how did you make a draft EA and how did you make a draft FONSI with no information? And they looked at me and they said, it's a draft. It only says draft once in the whole article, and it's at the top of the first page. You get 5 pages into that, this is just a government-produced article. Getting that response was just anger. I didn't even have a response to, it's a draft. You released the draft.
Just from a science perspective, you can't do an environmental assessment by, hey, everything looks great from here. You need to sample. You need to do it, preferably long term.
But they got an earful.
We are now positioned primarily to the proposed sites.
How can the conclusion that developing this facility in Blind Bay would have little to no impact?
With the river united, it shall not be silent. Listen to the community. Thank you.
It's important for Customs and Border Protection to see the people, right? See this in reality. By doing everything by email and in writing, letter form, you don't see the humanity of the issue. You don't see the fabric of community.
I think in the 2 days, probably 800 people came through there.
The whole St. Lawrence would feel that facility being put in there, and I think that people kind of understand that.
Yeah, my general thoughts are there's still a ways to go. I haven't given up, and I think you'll find other people haven't given up. The fact that they are coming back and have put the cloverleaf into the mix, to me, it's a major step forward.
Thank you, Emma.